All right, everybody, welcome to the What's Next podcast, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, real estate agents, and business professionals to talk about tech, strategy, and everything interesting, really. I'm your host, Max Bergstrom, and this is What's Next. Let's go.
We sit down with real estate agents and talk about how the industry is changing, thriving with technology. We look at strategy. We love it. Welcome to What's Next podcast.
All right, welcome to the What's Next podcast. Today on the show, we've got Craig Sewing. He is a consumer activist, CEO, TV show host, author, keynote speaker. I mean, what's the deal, man? You're kind of an overachiever, it seems like. What are we adding onto the list this year?
Probably a serial entrepreneur, which I think you might have said in there. All that kind of falls under that umbrella, I think.
Gotcha, serial entrepreneur. All right, well, I love that. Thanks for being on the show. This is very cool for me. I met you a couple years ago when Casey LeBlanc and I went over to your office. And
another serial entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, absolutely. And so I'm really looking forward to having you here. So thanks for coming. And I mean, just to start, you have from the research I've done, you had a pretty interesting life, and you talk about some, kind of going against the grain, some cutting edge stuff. I'm really into that. But like, how did you get here, like in this chair? Like,
you guys invited me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, so I drove over from my office. Okay.
Yeah. No. How did I get here? Well, I think people throw the word entrepreneur around a lot, right? It's become kind of a buzzword, and it's really not that glorious, to be honest with you. I think most know that there's a lot more heartache than people realize with it. For me, started way back when I was shoveling snow in St. Louis, Missouri, and mowing lawns. That's where that entrepreneurial spirit came for me, and it was to buy baseball cards. And then fast forward a couple decades. I had a background in real estate and mortgage as well, which is kind of relevant for some of the guests and audience that you guys have on What's Next. And I looked at media as something that could be leveraged.
Yeah.
I started in radio in 2009.
Okay.
And so this is really, now social media existed, but it didn't exist so much in the way of a business platform the way that it does now, or where commerce actually happens.
2000, we're talking like Twitter was just out.
Yeah,
right?
These things were out, but they're definitely not where they are today.
Yeah.
And podcasts were nowhere near what they are today. And I had a radio show here in San Diego that you listened to when you drove, right? It was like a 6 o'clock. Well, actually, it didn't start there. It started at 7 in the morning.
AM,
on
FM.
Sundays. Think about that. AM, I started with a radio show at 7 a.m. live to tape. So got my ass up out of bed at 5:30 on a Sunday and did a show live to tape.
Yeah.
I think back to, I'm like, why would any guest ever have got up and joined me on a Sunday morning? Most of them were hungover, including me. And it's like, how did we pull that off? Because at that time, that medium was cool. It was unique. And it's still, it still exists, but it's a dying medium. But that was 2009. And when it first started, the funny thing is we paid for it. So I went in, this is back when I had real estate and mortgage in my background, and we were looking at advertising. And this guy there said, hey, look, did you know you could have your own radio show? You seem to know your space really well. Right. And I was like, really? And at that time, I had hated public speaking. I think I'm an introvert by nature, but being an extrovert, and what do they say, being an extroverted introvert?
Yeah, they like can blend. You can have introvert tendencies.
Being an extrovert's going to pay you more than being an introvert. Yep. Like, you got to get out there and you got to do some things. And so we had the opportunity for this radio show, and it cost $3,600 a month. We were spending money on marketing, so we're like, all right. 2 weeks later, we had a show, and we get up 7 in the morning, and we went and did this thing, and we would invite guests on the show, and we never really looked at it for the audience as much as we did the guests. How can we bring them in, build relationships, leverage it? Well, we did that. Nobody listened to the show. That probably lasted a year.
What was the show called?
Something stupid. I'm trying to think. It was dumb. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
In radio, it tends to be your name. It ended up being the Craig Sewing Show, which sounds narcissistic.
But that's Sew This with Craig Sewing.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Or the Sewing Machine.
The Sewing Machine. I like that.
Well, now I got to get my podcast going.
Good ideas.
These are great ideas.
Burn the boats, baby.
Burn them. So with that, we, I don't want to be too long-winded about your one question. Otherwise, we'll never get anywhere here today. But I had the ability to go to a Saturday afternoon, and one day I get a phone call from a guy. he's a financial advisor. And he's like, hey, I really like your show. I listen to it all the time. I was like, oh shit, a listener. Wow. And it turns out he's an advertiser on another show that's on that network. And we sit down, he gives me $1,000 a month. Sweet.
Yeah,
right? So like, all right.
Stack a month.
Few months later, we got a sponsor here, got a sponsor there. Then we were bringing in $4,000 a month for a show that cost us for production and everything else $3,600. I was making $400 a month. I thought I was a cat's meow. So that's really how it sparked. If you look at me as the CEO of a media company now, but it started with really doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Hosting a show.
Yep.
Building an audience.
Putting yourself out there.
For sure, which I want to make sure the things we talk about today are relevant to people who are listening. I mean, there's a takeaway. You got to be willing to do things that are uncomfortable.
Yep.
I already mentioned I hated public speaking. I hated fear worse than public speaking.
Yeah.
So it's like kick fear in the face, do this thing, see what happens. And then eventually it really was one thing after another led to here. Because your question was, how did you get here?
Exactly.
Well, went to a daily show, then went to a 2-hour daily show. Then we're spending $6,000 and bringing in 10. And it's not just about the money thing, but it's the advancement of the crib.
You got a team.
Then I hired an intern.
Yeah.
That intern became an assistant. Then somewhere it really started to change really in 2013 because I got the same kind of opportunity except to host a TV show. And that was with the Union Tribune, which ended up going belly up. In 2013, we had a show.
Yep.
That was the American Dream, which was just kind of, we tripped and stumbled on that name. 2016, we launched Ignite Media, which is my company, where we have, producers, editors, directors, social media. And we basically brought everything in-house, started getting on airplanes, taking models across the country to where we sit today. The American Dream is a national show. And I believe it to be a very modern day media model. You could go on CNBC on a Saturday morning, national television show, 80 million households, you'll find it. You can go on Bloomberg TV, Fox Business. You can go to 70 different cities and see it on local affiliates. Amazon, Apple TV, Roku, and then the social media is big for us. Millions of views there.
Yep.
It all goes back to the original story of just doing a little radio show and paying for it, getting your first sponsor.
$400 a month.
Yeah, well, getting paid $400. I was like, cha-ching.
Yep.
It's big. So that's been the journey.
I love
with
that.
a lot of failures all up in it.
Yeah.
All up in it.
For sure. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's excellent. Are you a college dropout? Is that true? I read that.
Thanks for the announcement. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, that the reason why I bring that up is because
it's in my book. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, the reason I bring it up is I know a lot of extremely successful people that never went to college. And I think that, I think like a liberal arts education, there's definitely some value there, but there's like a stigma that's like, go to get good grades in high school and then get into college and then get a degree and you're never going to be successful if you don't have this. I mean, so the whole entrepreneurial journey, like part of that is like, I'm a psychology major.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, I've used psychology in sales and marketing, but I was going to be a therapist. That's what I originally wanted to do. I haven't used it at all. You know what I mean?
I'm not one of those anti-college guys. You hear that from Billy Jean. Billy Jean is marketing. He's here in San Diego. Great guy.
I've seen some of his stuff.
He's like hardcore on that.
Yeah.
And good for him. I mean, I get that message. You hear it from Gary Vee. I'm not really an anti-college guy, but because there's an other side to that as well, where people make being an entrepreneur look way easier than it is. Yeah. It actually is
lonely.
It's lonely as shit.
Yeah, it's really lonely.
It's incredibly lonely. It's
painful.
It's painful. There's failure on failure. Yeah. People don't realize that, and you don't clock in, you clock out, and so I think we throw that term around way too loosely, which causes a younger generation to think it's cool versus hard work. And when you talk about things like college, the funny thing is saying I'm a dropout is actually a nice way of saying I got kicked out. Like that's the truth. I had a lot of fun in college.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the story really goes, I got suspended for a semester, and I went and worked for MTV in New York City during that suspension. I
was going to mention that next because that working for MTV is something that I always wanted to do. So I was going to ask you about
back when they played music.
Right.
Yeah, now it's like 16 and pregnant and reality garbage. But so in 2001, I went and I got a internship for MTV in New York City. When I came back from that job, I could have gone back to school. I got a random job in the mortgage industry, did way too well at 21 years old, and called mom and dad and said, hey, I'm not going to finish school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And I'm certain I'm not anti-college either. I mean, like I said, I mean, I think there's a lot of value in just having a liberal arts education or a college education because you actually learn how to think a little bit.
Of course. And socialize and
yeah,
it's
exactly.
fun. But you learn.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, that was that just, figured that I would ask you about that.
Well, it's so expensive. That's where I think the argument can be made now is the expense of it. What could you do with that kind of money to
the
give
80 grand
your
I'm
kids
still
a
paying
chance or
off.
give yourself a chance? And I think every situation is different. I don't beat the drum. I don't go to college, but keep your options open.
Love that. And you worked for MTV. So what did you do for MTV?
Yeah, I mean, this is a long time ago. This is 2001. So I lived in New York City right before 9/11 happened.
Okay.
So I moved in August of 2001. September 11th happened.
From where? From the Midwest?
Right. Well, so I moved from St. Louis, Missouri to New York City, and I worked there just a matter of months. And, your question was, what did I do for MTV?
Yeah.
A runner, nothing crazy. I worked on the sets. I did intern work. I got coffee for Carson Daly.
Meet some cool people?
I did, but they didn't care about me. I met, J-Lo, Johnny Knoxville, Eminem, Paul Walker, who's passed.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of people. I mean, because you remember that show TRL?
Oh, totally.
Okay, so TRL. I worked on TRL.
I'm 36. So in 2001, I'm 16 years old. I mean, and I'm in a
I'm
band.
21. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm like every day when I got home from school, I was always on MTV, like TRL, all that, like back when they actually played music, just like you said. So absolutely, I remember all.
They don't
those
even have a
shows.
right to call themselves MTV anymore.
No,
they don't play music. I mean, I think there's
empty,
like
empty TV.
There you go.
Empty. I stole that from Kurt Cobain, by the way. But
really?
Yeah, I got to give him props.
Well, back in the day,
he was calling it that back in the day.
Really?
So, yeah.
Well, they played music then.
I know.
I think there's like MTV 7 and maybe on one of those back stations where you have to have like this expensive cable subscription with everybody's
they
cutting
still
the cord
play?
cable. Probably.
So hey, I got a bit of a little quiz for you then.
All right.
See if you know it. What was the first video ever played on MTV?
ABBA. Right?
Was it?
Yeah.
I think it was Video Killed the Radio Star.
Wasn't that ABBA though?
No, by the Buggles. Name of the group was the Buggles.
You're right. That is it.
Same era.
I just said the wrong band name, but
Yeah.
that is the right answer, and I
Yeah.
would have got that.
Yeah.
I don't want to get a fail on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Craig did not fail on that question. He got it right.
Can we get that clear for the record? That's what I
clear.
would have said.
Got you. Totally. All right. So you were a runner for MTV. So then when did the shift into like real estate and finance and stuff like that happen? This is like, you're in San Diego and you started all that, or did you start that in New York, or what was that? What was that like?
So I came back to Missouri, and really St. Louis is where I'm from. Columbia is where I went to the University of Missouri, and I had a semester off, and I needed to get a job while I waited for school to pick back up and really finish my last semester or two, I guess. But opened up, I think, a Yellow Pages then. I mean, there was no Yelp. There was no Monster.com. Yep. And I opened up a Yellow Page, and there was a job for a telemarketer. And so here I am, 21 years old. I don't know how much it paid. I went in.
Do you remember what the ad, like, what was like the call to action on the ad? Was it like make $1,200 a week or something like that on the phone?
Like one of those things you see on the side of the highway, looking for people to invest in real estate on like a cardboard box.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I do know it was the Yellow Pages. And I went in for this, quote, telemarketing job. I never made one single call. The owner of the company, a guy named John Schulte, he's still there. And a friend of mine, he just said, "Hey, look, man, you want to be an assistant loan officer? Our loan officer guy needs support." I'm like, "Well, what's a loan officer?"
Yep.
So I sat down, basically started taking apps. Now, everybody's seen the movie The Big Short, right?
Yep.
Now, a lot of that's pretty gnarly, right? We didn't do anything like that, but the mortgage industry as it stood was the wild, wild west. I mean, anybody
Just
could
not
get a
a lot
loan.
of regulations and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and that almost comes off wrong because that's not really what I mean. But rates were low. Everybody needed to refinance, and there was a program for everybody.
If you have a pulse, you're getting a loan.
Right. So for a 21-year-old, all I had to do was take calls and do apps, and then these people could refinance or do whatever. And we did mostly paper stuff anyway. The stuff you see on like The Big Short is, like a stripper being able to buy a $5 million property on a stated income loan.
Right.
And I say that because that's actually what they do on the show or on the movie. Well, but the truth of that movie is a lot of that stuff did exist. And it really wasn't, I don't know anybody who didn't take the money that was being given to them. The banks were offering the money. It was a Wall Street corrupt, bad product riding this sugar high of real estate, and it all imploded.
Okay.
The real estate market now, it's healthy. It's real financing. It's people having to have good credit, put their money down.
Right.
Rates are low. That's fueling it. But back in 2001, it was like fog and mirror, get a loan. And so it just created this environment where I made way too much money at 21 years old. Stupid. It never got to my head, though. It's never, ever, ever been about money.
Yeah, you don't strike me as that kind of guy, just in general.
I'm not. My parents still live in the house I was raised in.
Yeah.
I do better than I ever would have thought of financially. Money will follow your passion.
Totally.
If you're good at something and you can provide a good or service to somebody else, you can monetize it. You do it really well, you're going to monetize it a lot.
Yep.
So in that respect, of course you love money because it represents something. But for me, I did well at 21. I was around a lot of people like that. You know, the newest Hummer, the newest Benz, all this. That all really turned me off.
Well, I mean, it's probably why you've been successful as an entrepreneur, because if it was all about the money, I mean, the fails alone, you probably would have quit.
Yeah,
People that are
exactly right.
doted on money. I mean, the second, and they're like, man, I can't make this work. They just give up. But you love the actual journey, and you love facing the failure. And so
if you if you don't, it's gonna run its course.
Totally.
First of all, it's tough to get anywhere in the first place because you're chasing a pipe dream. And even if you make money, it can all change, and that can be taken from you. And some of the things I look at myself and who am I now, right? That's young and learning and figuring out life. I mean, I'm jealous of minimalists. Like, I'm jealous of the guy, my friend in Hawaii, who makes a paycheck, spends it, doesn't say much, but he lives in Hawaii. He's living his retirement now.
Yep.
And he's the happiest guy in the world. He don't have the stress and the chaos and all of that.
Exactly.
So for me, I meditate every morning.
Yep, me as well.
Now, I want cool things. I want that lifestyle. I want to travel. I don't want to be held back by not having money. I want to buy homes and things like that. But it's not the driver.
You don't make it like your universal God.
No, not at all.
Exactly.
The universal God is happy, content, present, right? Doing this with you and adding value to others. That's a driver. Money is you're chasing a rabbit
bonus.
hole.
It's a benefit.
It'll follow if you do it right, if you're good at it, whatever it is.
Yep, for sure. I love that. Well, you mentioned you're from St. Louis. So you're a Midwestern boy. I'm a Midwestern boy. So I'm going to do a little segment here. I call this...
the Midwestern Boy segment?
Yeah. A couple of couple of Midwestern guys. So I'm calling this Only Folks from the Midwest... ... All right. So
all right.
Now this is either going to make me look like an idiot or like a genius. I don't know yet.
The answer is Busch Beer.
Segment over. He wins. All right, here we go. So what I'm just going to mention a couple things. You'll get this. So here we go. Is it a drinking fountain or is it a bubbler? Have you heard people call it a bubbler?
I would go with drinking fountain.
Me too. So I'm looking at some stuff about the Midwest where I'm from, and I guess like some people call it a bubbler. That's not anything I've ever heard of, but
I don't know these people.
Okay, great. All right. So next, then, have you ever used the term "don't you know"?
You have. That's Minnesota.
It is.
Missouri.
Okay, so that does not exist in Missouri. People don't have like any of that kind of you betcha.
Heavier in Minnesota, I would think, but probably.
Okay, so
Dude, I've been in California for 20 years. I've been Californianized.
Yeah, I believe it. I've been here for 5, and I feel like that's happening to me pretty quick too. So is it the freeway or the expressway?
Freeway.
Freeway, absolutely. Is it pop or soda?
Soda.
But in Missouri, is it pop or soda?
In St. Louis, it would be soda. In Kansas City, it would be pop, both in Missouri.
Okay, yeah. So there's like different little...
It's nooks and crannies. Yeah. It ain't a statewide thing.
Right, yeah. See, in St. I saw
all markets
St.
are local.
Paul. It's pop. Everywhere in Minnesota is pop. So I came out here and I was calling it pop. People are looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Right, yep.
Like, you mean a soda? I'm like, oh.
St. Louis soda, Kansas City pop. Yep.
Okay, got it. All right.
We're learning something today.
Yeah, we're schooling people on the Midwest. Hot dish or casserole?
Oh, man, I don't know.
You never heard of hot dish?
I mean, I've had food that was warm and it was in a dish. Okay. I would call that a hot dish.
Okay.
A casserole is a type of food. A hot dish is an adjective about a food. It's hot.
But so like when we were growing up, like let's say you had spaghetti one night, you had lasagna the next night. So the third night you would put them together and be like, what are we eating? Well, it's hot dish.
That's hot dish?
Yeah, like it's just like random,
Dude,
stuff. I
think Minnesota might be on its own thing.
We're strange.
Yeah.
We're strange people.
But I bet we're both glad to be here right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Are
man,
you
the
kidding
snow
me?
and everything
Everybody,
else.
yeah, everybody I know that comes out here to visit, and they're like, oh, I can see why you.
I love all these people who are like, oh, but I love the snow. So do I. That's why I will visit it every year, but I wouldn't want to live in it. I believe that any time I could be locked out of my home and die, whether it's too hot or too cold, is not a place I want to live.
That's a good motto to live
Right?
by.
Like San Diego, you should be cool.
Yeah, no matter what. All right. This is one that we never use this. I'm just curious. But when you've had a few too many drinks, would it be safe to say that you're schnockered?
If you're from Minnesota, I don't know.
No, I'm talking about just the Midwest.
Schnockered?
Have you ever heard that before?
I don't know.
I guess it's a Midwest.
Shit-faced, drunk,
Okay.
hammered,
Okay.
schnockered?
Never heard schnockered.
I don't know, man. I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, so now let's talk about St. Louis specifically then.
All right.
Okay. So if I said you want to go throw some washers, what would that mean to you?
Well, we're tossing washers.
All right. So,
The little silver rings into the can.
yeah. Aren't they washers though?
I'm game with washers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
But
the R pronunciation.
you can get the R in from people in Missouri. Of course, I'm
Okay.
more of a cornhole guy.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right.
I can toss a mean bag.
Okay. So if I said, like you're talking about somebody and you described him a certain way and I was like, yeah, she must be from Jeffco. What would that mean to you? Anything?
Jefferson County?
Yeah. Is that like oh, that must be from Jeffco. You know how they are.
Yeah,
Like, is it like a
not
thing?
exciting. It's
Okay.
not a fun part of Missouri.
Okay.
That's what you pass when you go to the Lake of the Ozarks. Lake of the Ozarks. Now that's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's party town. That's a fun place.
Yeah.
It's really, that's younger talk. I think they've kind of calmed things down over the years. But now, that show Ozark,
Yes, I love that show.
yeah, they don't do a good job
No, they make it
representing
look
the
like
lake
dark and-
to Hoosierville.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the Lake of the Ozarks is a really cool place.
Yeah.
It's got amazing lakefront property. It's really a cool place.
Okay. Okay.
Not as
so-
redneck as a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of it,
so
actually.
that's on here too. I was like, what's rednecks called Hoosiers? Like,
Well, see, a Hoosier is from Indiana.
Right.
There's the basketball team, and you're
That's
from Indiana,
exactly
you call it
what I
Hoosier.
thought.
But in Missouri, when you call someone a Hoosier, you're basically calling them a redneck. Mm-hmm. Which you are a redneck if you're in Missouri. Like, I am a redneck. I said Bush beer before you even said anything. I mean, like, nothing says.
Like the answer
I'm not
is
even
Busch
kidding.
beer.
You're not going to believe what I'm about to say. Yesterday, couldn't make this up. I bought a bar of soap that was Bush beer soap. I'm not kidding you.
It's like ingrained in your subconscious.
I'll show you in my phone. I was going into the store in Encinitas, sunglasses and random stuff there, and I'm buying this pair of sunglasses.
Yeah.
And on the shelf is a box with the Bush beer. Everyone knows the Bush beer can. And it was soap, Bush beer soap.
You're
And
like, I gotta get that.
Of course I bought it. They also had Budweiser soap. I'm like, I can't buy both. I'm going with
Right.
Bush. That's more redneck.
Okay, so that's like the beer there? I mean, that's like,
Bush Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's Bush, Bud Light, Budweiser. Interchange them however you want. That's the essence of St. Louis.
Got it.
I'm
Love
an IPA guy now.
Yeah.
San Diego's done it right.
Yeah, I mean the brewery scene. I mean, like in Minneapolis, in Denver, out here. I mean, it's huge. Like I live in
incredible.
North County, and like in San Marcos, there's like just like square miles of industrial looking places, and like you can hit a brewery with a baseball standing from anywhere.
It's awesome. It's almost like beer has taken on kind of like what wine has been for so many years. You have a glass of wine. There's a story behind it. It
Yep.
pairs with something.
Yep.
Beer, I mean, some of the entrepreneurial stories, since the show is context around that, some of these guys have made $1 billion starting it out of their basement. Like it's the coolest thing that's emerged with this craft beer. Now it's everywhere, but San Diego's really been a leader in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it back home, like in Minneapolis too, and like the whole the hipster scene. Like I hate to use the term hipster,
Yeah.
but I know like that was like really big. And like I remember like a few years ago, this is like 2014, and my band was on tour and we were in Boulder, Colorado.
What do you play?
So I'm a songwriter, a lead singer, and a guitar.
I was going to
player.
say singer because of the way you opened the show. I'm like, damn, man, that guy rips.
Oh,
So
thanks,
I
man.
picked up on singer.
Thank you. Yeah. And
What kind of music?
it's like alternative rock. Getting into, like,
Yes,
hard
we're a
rock.
dying breed, man.
Yeah. So that you're into When you say we're a dime, okay,
Well, you said Kurt Cobain earlier. I'm like, there we go.
for sure. Okay, so you're into the same stuff.
Oh man,
Like Weezer, you like Weezer?
love Weezer.
Ginny Eat World.
Yeah,
bands
yeah.
like
I mean,
that.
90s alternative rock.
That's my bread. And
That's what I
butter.
grew up to.
Yeah,
I mean,
me too.
10, one of my favorite albums
Yeah,
ever, Pearl Jam.
Yep.
No, this isn't alternative, but man, I love Tool.
Tool's amazing.
Tool is
Tool's
my
amazing.
favorite band, and then all the spin-offs of Tool. You know, you have Perfect Circle and
I love
Lucifer.
Perfect Circle.
I mean,
yeah.
just
I mean,
awesome.
Maynard James Keenan is.
He's a
genius.
beast.
He is.
He's a beast,
I
and he's an
remember-
entrepreneur. The guy's got a winery and everything else.
Temecula, even, right? Isn't he up in Temecula?
Is that where he is?
I think so. I want to say
Yeah.
it's Temecula. But I remember in 2001 when Lateralis came out and Weezer's Green album came out on the same day. And like albums came out on Tuesdays back then, and now everything's on Friday, but nobody buys albums anymore anyways.
Right.
But like the line was like, I went to Cheapo Records was the name of the place in Minneapolis. And we stood in a line, I mean, it must have been like 2 or 3 blocks long. And like when I look, cause like being so like, you know, my band is we have a new album coming out this year. We got a
Good for
single
you.
coming out next month. But like the way that the industry used to be and how it is now, it's the same game. It's the same entrepreneur. Like having a band is a business too. It's a business.
I
you
would
know?
imagine, yeah.
You got to build it up from the ground up, and there's no school for it, you know. So it's really an entrepreneurial journey as well. But I mean, you have like doing the content. We're going to talk about content here too, shortly. But like your content game now is just huge. You know what I mean?
I would
Especially
imagine,
during
yeah.
COVID, you can't play live shows. So I mean, it's like, you know, you control what you can. Don't worry about what you can't.
Yeah,
It's-
what a funny parallel, right? When you look at a lot of what we do in media, content is king, distribution is queen, and where's the pants? Like these are the things that, as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, as a salesperson, someone has a charity, doesn't really matter. You got to have content.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear it in the context of music. Like that's how you get picked up. That's how you get noticed. Like I imagine there's some
certainly
bands who
helps.
made it from online.
Oh, 100%. Like there's bands that have never played a live show in their life. They put out a video on YouTube and somebody heard it, and you know, nowadays unfortunately it doesn't even work like that. I mean, you know, you before you could play out somewhere and a scout might see you or an agent, and they'd tell the record exec about you, and then they would come and throw a bunch of money at you, and
Yeah.
you know, then you're Guns N' Roses.
Games changed.
Yeah, nowadays you have to get yourself to a certain level, so bigwigs see that you're pulling your own weight on your own. So it's touring, it's content, it's being good. Obviously, you
Of
know,
course.
you have to be good.
Yep.
Kind of, I suppose.
You got to be good, but you got to hustle.
You
Being
gotta
good
hustle.
doesn't get you there.
It doesn't.
Being
You have
good
to
is
do a-
one of the spokes on the wheel you
Right.
better have.
Exactly.
You watch the Grammys?
I did not.
You didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, especially looking at the rock category, I was like,
do they have a rock category? I didn't see anything rock. They didn't even acknowledge that Eddie Van Halen died. I mean, barely.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
What pop culture is just turned to
It's
absolute
low
garbage.
consciousness. Very low consciousness.
But
stuff.
it's you know, I try not to watch this stuff anymore. But I watch that because whatever, you know, you're not much on those sports games. Sunday night, watch the Grammys.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, am I in the twilight zone or is this just awful? The music, I mean, there's some talented musicians out there. I think Dua Lipa's pretty good for pop culture. I think she's good. My twin babies danced her. Like, all right, she's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And there's-
Billie Eilish is doing some cool stuff too.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. She's unique and
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of some good ones out there. But pop culture as a whole, network TV and all this, it's just garbage, man.
Yeah.
And I went online the next day. I'm like, I wonder what people are saying about this, just out of curiosity. And I click around and like people are like raving about it. I'm like, I'm old. I must be old. This
Yeah.
must be what's happened,
Yeah.
is that I'm old now and I'm the guy who's like, I can't believe they did that. I would never let my daughter watch that. Like,
Right.
am I that guy now? I don't feel like I am, but
Yeah, well, I mean, you just had twin daughters, right? So you can, maybe,
that might be something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or I just think it was garbage.
yeah,
That's why I said we're a dying breed, man. When you said alternative rock, I'm like, yes, all right.
That's my shit, man. You know,
Good.
That's where I grew up too, and I mean, I think there's a lot. I love all kinds of music.
So do I.
I really do.
I
But
agree.
yeah, that's like when I listen to 93, 94, 95, like rock music from back then. I mean, that just the hairs in the back of my neck stand up.
Yep.
You know, so that's what I love. And in talking about content, I mean, I've read and I know that you have a lot of value in your story, like telling your story. So why is that so valuable? Why do you think it's so valuable to articulate, your story?
I don't know if my story is that valuable or not.
But just people in general,
but
storytelling.
Yes.
Being able able to tell a story.
So let's talk about business, right? Let's talk about that entrepreneurial spirit that you opened up the show with. And I want to frame up story when you look at mom and pop shops back in the day. So my dad had a mom and pop shop. My dad had a cafeteria in St. Louis, Missouri. All right. So has this cafeteria. It's in the heart of St. Louis. It was owned by his dad in the 1940s, Elmer Sewing. So my dad's David Sewing. He and his brothers ran this cafeteria called the Salad Bowl. Now, they didn't even really serve salad, which is weird.
What did they serve?
It was a buffet. It was a cafe.
Okay.
Or cafeteria.
Yeah.
Buffet. Is cafe the right word? Cafe? Is that a word?
Yeah.
Cafeteria. Cafe? Okay.
Yeah, that's a word. Absolutely.
Mind fail here. So they had a cafeteria in downtown St. Louis, a buffet line. Now, heart of St. Louis, owned by his dad in 1943.
Okay.
Now, what's really interesting about the Sewings, my dad, his dad, and the Salad Bowl, it was in the heart of the African-American community. Now, I'm sure you and your audience has picked up that I am white.
Yeah, so Craig is white.
We're very white, and you should see me dance.
Yes.
I'm really...
that would really drive the point home.
Yeah, if we need to do that, I can. But so is my dad.
Okay.
So that's kind of where this comes from.
Yep.
Well, this business was in the heart of the African-American community. All right, cool. 90% of, I don't know the exact percentage, but many of their cooks and chefs and people who worked there were African-American as well. So why is that a big deal? Think about this. It was opened in 1943. This is when there was racial divide, not the racism that you see today, which does exist, but I'm talking divided lines and everything else.
Blatant in your face,
don't get in our line.
Totally.
That's not even that long ago, which is bizarre. But my grandpa was quoted, who I never got to meet, that, and I think it was with the paper or someone, that we will serve anyone a meal who wants to eat with us. Doesn't matter their skin color.
Yep.
And that was kind of their thing, their mantra. And so they were shunned. And then as things progressed, Dr. Martin Luther King comes in 1960-ish. There was still all kinds of racism. Well, my mom would take me to this cafeteria, the Salad Bowl, about once a year, a summer, to go to a Cardinal baseball game. So she'd drive me into the city, leave me with my dad. Now, he could have had me in the back of his office, eat a meal, wait for him to get ready, go to the Cardinal game. He would make me go and walk through the line with all of his customers every time, not skip the line, not wait in the back, and pay the cash register gal, Millie. Millie worked there for 50 years.
50 years. Talk about retention.
50.
Wow.
50.
Wow.
Then I would go and I would eat with his customers. And I got to meet some really cool people, really cool stories.
Yeah.
My dad and his brothers did that without me every single day for lunch. They went through their own line, sat down, and ate meals with their customers. Now, the Salad Bowl no longer exists. Turned into a hotel chain 15 years ago. They sold, retired, and now it's one big hotel. You go into the city of St. Louis in this area and you talk about the Salad Bowl amongst the African-American community, it's uncanny how many people would know it. And I've done this before.
Yeah.
And the reason is, this gets back to your question, they had a story. This is what they were known for. There was no Yelp. There's no Facebook. There's no reviews. It was one neighbor. Yeah, one neighbor told the other neighbor.
Totally.
Word of mouth. Now, these are the mom and pop shops. This is like the essence of them. So when you look at that, well, what were they? There's limited options. You didn't have the internet. And they're probably overpriced a little because of less options. Well, what happened to them? They got crushed by the retailers. The Walmarts. They come in, they made things quicker and cheaper.
Yeah,
what happened to Walmart?
Exactly.
Walmart got crushed by the internet. Things are even cheaper now. Well, now where are we? So you got this thing called social media where you do have Yelp, you do have reviews, you do have people that talk about you. It's just not neighbor to neighbor. It's globally.
Yeah.
It's viral.
On a mass
and
level.
so when we talk about story, it's almost like we've come full circle onto what it means to have a story. The Salad Bowl had a great story, and businesses like that had a great story, mom and pop shops.
Yep.
Now, your story matters more than anything. So if you're a business, you can't gain market share without being a great marketer. There is no arguing that you better understand the digital and social space. Anyone who doesn't believe that to be true is dying a slow death while they romanticize about the past.
100% agree.
So how do you create a story? You're doing a podcast. You're sharing your story.
Yeah.
People know you for this stuff. And what's next?
Yep.
Content. We've talked about podcasts,
Yep.
video,
Yep.
pictures, things like this.
Yeah.
That's your story. That's your brand. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not around. They're looking you up online. What do they find? And not only what do they find, things like Facebook allow you to find them. It's uncanny what you can do on Facebook now for business. I don't need social media for more friends. Like, I don't care.
Yep.
I don't need more political opinions from other people I barely know.
Yeah, regardless if you get them or not.
Right. It's at the end of the day,
Right.
there's some connectivity with it, but from a business medium, there's never been a time in the history of mankind where we talk about being an entrepreneur. You could be an entrepreneur and be a marketer for your brand. And if it's not business, your charity, your cause.
Yeah.
There's never been a better time. And it's just getting started. The internet's getting faster.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, stuff like I worry, like in like 20 years, like virtual reality is.
You should worry. Have you done an Oculus?
Yeah, yeah. So
God.
see, I mean, and like I think about it, I'm like, okay, like now it's garbage, but in 20 years, like, nobody's ever gonna want to leave their house. Like virtual Facebook. If I don't like my body, I'm just gonna plug on in and I get whatever body I want.
It's Matrix stuff.
It's freaky. So I mean, are you a little worried about it too? I mean, or are you just like it's all good?
No,
It's just hard to say.
So I did one of those Oculus. I put the Oculus on and
Yeah.
played this game and did it for 15 minutes. I remember I used to play Nintendo. Remember Nintendo?
yeah, absolutely.
Karate Kid, Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Not Karate Kid, Karate Kung Fu.
Duck Hunt.
Right. Nintendo.
Excite
Then there's
Bike.
Sega and whatever. And then eventually I outgrew the stuff. But so playing this Oculus thing, I took it off and I looked at real life and I was like, whoa. I felt like the real life thing felt weirder than the Oculus because I had it on long enough. Now think about this. Okay. And I'm sure you have, but what's next? Well, maybe it's not just a thing you put on your head, you put it on your body, or maybe it's a room you go into. You're going to be able to go.
You put in your body. Maybe you put it in your brain.
Well, let me trip you out here in a second. So imagine you don't have to go on vacation because you do this. Imagine you don't have to go to a Laker game and sit front row because you can do it from here.
Like Total Recall.
It's been so long.
Do you remember that? It's, I'm going to Mars. Get to Mars. It was,
You do a good Arnold.
Yeah, I'm not bad at it.
No.
Total Recall. But yeah, when he goes to Mars and he ends up that he was like, in this machine and it was all like a simulation or whatever. But that's what people did. Like they went on vacation by going to like a studio somewhere and they would get plugged into this machine. They would pick their vacation and then they're like, you won't know it's not a real vacation until you come out of it.
I don't feel like that's that far off.
It's not too far
and
off,
some
right?
of it sounds really cool, but we are so stupid as people, and we're so stupid as a country and so irresponsible as a government. It's a very slippery slope, and it's worrisome. And what I would suggest on, like, what you said, something like if you get downloaded or a chip, think about this.
Yeah, like in your brain.
What if your memory, something you remember, could be downloaded, right? And what if you couldn't forget anything because everything you ever thought you could remember? Now, if I said, tell me something about high school, you can only remember bits and pieces and good stories. What if you never forgot anything?
Yeah. Well, see, and that, when everybody tells me, like, that story, well, life's short, that saying, right? People say life's short. It's like, actually, I think it's only short because you can't remember that much. But if you remembered every minute of every day.
I don't remember shit.
Yeah.
You should have seen how I was in
ate for
college.
lunch 2 days ago, Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you had a lot of fun in college. I can assume what that might have meant.
I don't remember shit. Yeah. Right. So I don't know. Am I worried about the stuff? No, I love technology. I love the free marketplace, but there's something that's really weird about where things are going. But also opportunistic. I don't know. I'm not a fear guy, so roll with it.
I can't remember this guy's name off the top of my head. Like maybe it'll come to me. But anyways, this guy, he talks about like the 3 stages of, world domination by big tech, whatever, and he's like, first is, your phone, something you can, you have like a gadget. The next phase is wearables, like the iWatch and stuff like that. Now you're wearing glasses.
Now the third phase is a shot from the government called a vaccine.
Yeah. Or in your brain.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but think about it.
Me neither, but it's crazy. Just like, I don't know. It's sometimes it seems not too far fetched to me. Like you could go and get something put in your brain that, you can be tracked, or like if you want, like my phone, like, dude, this is your phone. You don't need your phone anymore. It just goes right in your brain. You can access all that stuff.
How does a watch measure your steps?
I have no idea.
Me either.
I don't know. But I know like you can cheat with them, right? Because like my ex-wife used to always like, we do like the 10,000 steps thing, and I'd have mine and I'd like be moving it like I was taking steps, and I'd be like, see, look, I took the
You're
steps.
only cheating yourself, Max.
That's 100% true. 100% true. And then I went to Carl's Jr. right after. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I agree with you. I mean, looking at some of that stuff, I mean, I love technology, and I love, I think there's an upside to everything, but I mean, naturally, some of that stuff,
too.
It's a little freaky. You talk a lot about going against the grain, being unique, and, I love the story about, it was the salad bowl.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about, like, the American Dream. I know, your show, and you talk, and in the book, the American Dream 2.0, you talk about like the old school work ethic and how business was done back then, and pairing that up with technology and social media and how business is done now. And I love that fusing of those, because you mentioned in the bio or in the book about your grandparents like would shake hands, they would roll up their sleeves and do hard work, and just like like this, like sitting and having a relationship with somebody, and not just like you text me and then I'll text you.
I don't think our grandparents would even want to be alive today.
Probably not.
I mean, maybe that's not true, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
When you look at the book, and it's my own book, and I'm trying to think of the motto underneath the title, but it's sewing together old school techniques with new school technology. And the cover of the book, it's a needle, because my last name's Sewing, right?
Exactly.
Cute, right? Pun.
I love
intended.
it. No,
like
I was going to call that, but I didn't want to steal your
noticed.
thunder. Oh, absolutely.
All right, man. I don't know if people notice that, but it's sewing an old flag with like a new flag. And on the new flag, it's like social media, and the old, it's, stars and whatnot. But the whole point is the society, people, entrepreneurs, marketers, business people, some only get one part of the equation right.
Right.
Whether it be the old way, which is hard work, hustle, I'm not going to adapt social media or digital marketing, I'm old school.
Yep.
Look, there's honor in that. There's honor in getting out, meeting, breaking bread, building relational equity, all that stuff.
Yep.
The new school, where I think millennials get it wrong, is they ignored the other part, and they're online, they're hiding behind computers, and they're not making real relationships.
You need both.
You need both. If you can bring those two worlds together, where if you can leverage the world of social and connectivity and what we talk about, things in marketing like brand and all of that, you can leverage that in a way that's never been done before. It still all leads back to a relationship. It still all leads back to a handshake.
Absolutely.
I know that one of your topics is real estate. I mean, talk about an industry that's so poised for that. All these realtors are worried that Zillow is going to come and like knock them out of the business. Most of them should get knocked out of the business. Truth be told, 1.3 million realtors, licensing, it takes longer to get your hairstyling license than a real estate license.
Yeah, I've got mine.
There you go. 2008, the market crashed. Nobody got kicked out of the business. Yet 70% of the mortgage industry got kicked out. And these guys just became certified distress experts. All right. Why? They're protected by a lobby. Now, it's not a market crash, but it's a technological tidal wave. And these realtors better learn how to either grab a surfboard and surf it, or they're going to drown. And the fact of the matter is this: technology can be your worst enemy or your best friend. You're not going to lose the realtor. You're going to lose the unprofessional one. You're going to lose. Sorry, Max, stay on the podcast. If you're not practicing,
this ain't your game.
It won't be. Well, it could be.
Yeah.
You're a talented dude. It needs to be your full game.
Yeah.
And so 100%. I think over the next 12 to 24 months, what you're going to see in real estate is a real separation between bad and good. Bad will get wiped out. Good and great. Great's going to take all the market share. And then tech is going to get theirs. So companies like Zillow will turn into a brokerage because they can make a lot more money that way. Redfin already is. Companies like HomeLight, which I know New Venture has a relationship with, they get to the consumer. They choose the realtors. That's going to be the hybrid. So Zillow's brokerage, realtors on their own. Somewhere in the middle, I think you got the HomeLight. If I'm a realtor, I'm not worried about Amazon coming through and making the deal $500 and there's just no money in it. Amazon wants there to be a commission in it. They just want you to work for it and take half of it from you, because the race is to getting that consumer first, which comes down to the same thing we're talking about in my book. It's technology to connect back to the real relationship. It all still leads back, and there's always a place for a human being. And now is really the time to double down on the human being. But if you don't embrace the fast-paced nature of tech, or you romanticize about the past, donezo.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, I wrote down here something you says, with disruption creates opportunity, which is
Is this? Have you ever seen a more disrupted market? I mean, COVID was the ultimate equalizer and disruptor. Now, when I talk about COVID, we do it with the disclaimer that horrible, right? People have lost their lives. Families have been affected.
You're not downplaying the seriousness of the situation.
Well, job loss, horrible, horrible, horrible. Never in a million years would we have thought this would happen or wanted to happen, and it's sad. And I know people have lost family members, like real. I've got the 1 degree of separation, but very close, where it's just sad. Let's put that aside for a moment. COVID was an equalizer. It don't give a rip how much money you make, what color you are. I guess if you're aged or older, you're more at risk. But it was the ultimate equalizer. And the truth is, it was also probably the greatest disruption ever to succeed. And that's the God's honest truth. For everyone who lost their job, there's people that are doing really well right now. Let's talk real estate, the mortgage industry. These guys are making more money than they have in their entire careers. Rates are low. People are moving. And more importantly than the opportunity in business, it gave us all an opportunity to take a step backwards and slow down.
Totally.
Gave us an opportunity to be humbled and like, wait, we're not in control. I could die from a flu-like thing. Forced us to be at home and enjoy our home more. Forced people to think, do I even like this home? Why do you think so many people are moving? They're like, I hate it here. This is forcing change. Not only that,
divorce rates went way up.
Right? Well, hey, maybe that's a good thing, though. It forced change.
I got divorced during COVID, so I mean,
really?
I did.
It forced change. Me and my wife, we happened to get closer.
That's great.
We happened to have our babies in April of last year, right? The coronials.
Yeah,
they're called.
Man, that's well, what was that like?
Insane. It was insane.
I love how you said insane. Like, yeah, that was great. Just the upward inflection, I can tell.
Well, here's the thing. And if this doesn't describe how fear is bullshit, ready? COVID happens. My wife is 9 months pregnant with twins. Now, I'm the man, so I'm the keeper of the house, and I got all this pride and ego. The truth is, I'm like, I was worried about her. Like, what's going through her head? She took it like a champ. Like, she had such a good demeanor about her, which was awesome. And so I saw a lot about her I would have never seen.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're having babies, you're going to all these doctor's appointments and things like that at the end. Well, we're having to go into the belly of the beast. You remember the first 30, 60 days, it was like, wait, we have to go into a hospital? I don't even want to touch a doorknob. Like it was, and even still, I mean, some of that's kind of true.
Yeah.
But that's what we had to do. We had to go in and do these things, and we're going to go have babies and bring them into this world. What will it do to
now?
Yeah, these are just things that you can't help but think about. And I think we did a really good job of compartmentalizing it, focusing on the things we can control, not worrying about the things we can't.
Well, look, you're still married.
Yeah.
Your kids are healthy.
Yeah.
You're doing okay.
Yeah, and
you did a fantastic job.
Well, and that's, you know, I didn't do anything, especially as the man. Like, having a baby is really easy if you're a man. We are so weak compared to women. What they have to go through, the body changes, the hormone, like
after witnessing the birthing, the whole experience, that's when it hit me. I was like, all right, you guys are the stronger sex. I'll tell you right now.
I mean, look, it's crazy.
It is.
Life is crazy. But when you look at us going through that March, April, a lot of fear, you know, I mean, we did what we could and focus on things we could control. Meditate. Hey, there's nothing you can control. The things you can't control, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of control it's an illusion, anyways.
Yeah, and we went into the hospital. We went into the hospital. The nurses were amazing. The hospital was amazing. They did a great job of making you feel safe. Of course, having babies is amazing. And really, for the last year, so that whole thing was nothing to fear but fear itself. Which president said that one? Kennedy?
I think that was was that FDR? The only thing
I think
fear
so.
Is fear itself. I think
right, but that's so true FDR. Because when we came out of it and we went back to our home, we're like, all that last month or two of fear was complete bullshit.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary. It did us no good.
Yeah.
And we handled it well, but it still lived in the back of our minds. And then you want to talk about the silver linings in this horrible COVID year. I was on an airplane every week traveling for the American Dream, launching the show.
Oh, really?
Every week I was multiple cities every week. It's my career. This is what I do. And it's what I'm going to need to do again. Mm-hmm. But I was able to spend the first year of my children's life at home, present, working from home.
Yeah.
Like, that's priceless. Yeah. And for our business, just to be transparent with everybody, we got crushed, like murdered at first. Because a lot of what we do is tied to real estate. Mm-hmm. So we had videographers all over the country. Remember the first 30 to 60 days, like deals are falling out escrow. We have realtors that sponsor our show.
Mass panic.
They couldn't shoot their segments of the show. And I mean, now keep in mind, there's the show, and technically I'm the executive show producer, but I'm the CEO and owner of the company. Mm-hmm. We got crushed. It forced me, I could say us, but really me. I mean, definitely us, but I'm just saying, speaking on my own behalf, I had to take a step backwards. I would have never done if it was not forced onto me. Mm-hmm. So that step backwards was in the way of the worst part. We had to let people go. Never wanted to do that, right?
Yeah.
We had to survive.
Right.
Had to make changes, had to do things differently, had to remodel, innovate, pivot, all of this stuff. Now, if you said, hey, do you want to go back in time to where it was before COVID with your business and keep going from there and COVID's gone? No way.
Yeah.
The way we were doing things was wrong, antiquated, old. The new way we do it, we are doing incredible with a better model that gives us a way brighter future.
Yeah.
So that one step backwards, which was dark at the time, created fear, led to major steps forward.
Sure.
So in all of that, whether it's having the babies or the job, which people that are listening to this, watching this, you may not have had children, but everyone experienced the wrath of COVID on our marketplace, on our families. Every one of us, other than the compartmentalized death, illness, and all that, had the ability to find silver linings, do a gut check, and make it something that they could grow from. That's what you can say about anything adverse. Mm-hmm. If you look at it,
there's always value in adversity.
There is.
There's always value.
Doesn't seem like it at the time.
Yeah.
But then eventually you go through that enough times, whether we joke about the college dropout thing, that was horrible.
Yeah,
or COVID or anything else. Yeah. When you have been through life enough and you get on the other side of that failure and it's okay and even turns out better, all of a sudden you start looking at life through a different lens where you can replace fear with faith. And if it is adverse, if it is a challenge, what am I learning this time and what's the other side going to look like? As long as you don't fall asleep at the wheel between this side and that side, which is what people do. And I think where people get stung by this stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I love when you talk about fear, and how it just wasn't really an issue, or it's not real. Right. So I've been sober for almost a decade now, and I've got a sponsor, and this guy is like a wizard.
For you.
Thank you. He's like a wizard. And so like fears, I operate out of fear. That's like my default setting.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just like scared all the time. So everything. Not having enough money, my kids hating me, wasps, what have you, right? But and I tend to catastrophize and blow things out of proportion. So I'll call my sponsor and I'll talk to him and I'll be like, this is this day at work and I'm going to be late and I get this and I got that. And, basically he'll be like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but what's wrong now? I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like,
great answer.
Second, what's wrong now? And I go, well, nothing. He's like, all right. So now, now I can talk to you. Like we start right now. And then what he says, he's like, dude, 97% of the shit that you think is going to happen to you isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And the future doesn't exist. It's a mental phantom that's filled with fear that you can't cope with because there's no way to cope with something that's not real yet.
Well, and the past is gone.
And
right?
the past is gone.
The past is gone. 5 seconds ago is gone. The future is not guaranteed. All you have is now.
Right.
Have you ever read The Power of Now?
100%. Eckhart Tolle.
Best book.
Love it. It
Best
is.
book.
That changed my life.
Yep.
Changed my life. And I'm a daily meditator as well. So
Cool.
really, really big on that. But yeah, the whole fear thing, it's if you can't get outside and kind of like go meta on that voice, I call mine the vulture. Like the voice when I wake up and it's like I got, it's immediate like, hey Max, good morning. Your wife's gonna leave you, you're gonna lose your job, and you're a loser. Have a great day. You know what I'm saying? Like I have that voice like before my feet even hit the floor. And then there's a committee of other people.
But it's not your voice.
Too. Exactly. And now I can watch it.
That's the monkey brain.
Exactly. And I can just watch it and kind of smile and be like, oh, hello.
There he goes again.
There he is again.
Yeah.
And that's like, when you can like separate those two and just watch that stuff.
Watch the thinker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So,
wonderful, man.
I love that. I love that you're into that too.
I read that deep. Meditation is the greatest discovery of my personal and professional career, period. It should be taught in schools, elementary schools. It's
oh yeah, mindfulness, meditation, even breathing. I know that sounds so cliche, but like literally when you're panicked, just breathe a little slower.
Yep.
And you'll feel better.
Yeah,
Smile, make yourself smile.
It's a
You'll
trip.
feel better, but you just don't think about it.
Power of Now. So I read that book a long time ago, and it was impactful then. And then recently, I rented an RV Thanksgiving last year, and I took my family, like 2 6-month-olds, on an RV trip to Denver. Like kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I put in the audio version of that book, driving through the mountains, Moab, Zion, Denver.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, for anyone listening to this podcast or watching it, wherever this medium is showing up for you, don't just read that book. Listen to that book.
Yeah, listen to it. His voice.
And not in a, like, I'm working out, listen to it. Like I'm going for a drive and I'm not checking my phone and I'm listening and I give it my full attention. It is a game changer.
It is.
And it's old. It's not even a new book. It's an old book.
Right. And I know he's got some like subsequent books and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I mean that one changed the game for me too. So I mean that's great. I guess speaking of that, how has your meditation practice and things like that helped your business? Because that's another area where I don't think there's a lot of awareness on how those two are connected.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like people talk about meditation and spirituality and they talk about, mindfulness and what have you. And then there's the business sector. And I mean, by improving that area of your life, you can get great gains in the other period of the other area.
And like anything, it's now being productized and now there's apps for it. And some are good, some are not. But no matter what, the more people that get into it, the better. I don't care who you're following, what you're listening to. It's just something that we need to be teaching our children. It's better than drugs.
Right.
There's a drug for everything. I feel like this would solve so many of the illnesses, and I don't mean physical, literally physical actually, but the illnesses we have as a society. Okay, for work and business, every day, every morning for me there's a training. It's like a warm up before a workout. Mm-hmm. And I'm not perfect every day, but I have the same voice you do, just different topics, I think.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
And I don't let ego deny the voice or be too strong for the voice. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
So gratitude, meditation, workout in the mornings. Mm-hmm. I'm old. I don't really do it for the physical stuff as much anymore. I mean, sure, we all want to look good, but it's really to get the blood moving and the serotonin moving and all of that.
Totally.
Green juice. I mean, the things that I do in the morning, it used to be like run to the gym, work out, go. Now, I mean, it's like a 2 to 3 hour process in the morning. I get up early, call it 5 a.m. I do these things, and as it pertains to meditation, you asked, how does it affect business? There's not, I don't think, dramatic shifts, but if in a moment that I get frustrated, I snap at someone or I take it with a grain of salt, what kind of result might that create for me differently? Yeah. So for me, definitely. I look at it as I'm a rubber band that's been pulled back pretty tight. Meditation brings the rubber band back together so it doesn't snap.
That's so cool that you said that, because like, a big like sober sayings, we talk about like the spring being tightened back a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and eventually if I don't do something to get that under control, it's going to snap. And so, you talk about an instance where maybe somebody says something and you react or you snap at them. For me, I call like the next day, I'm going to have an emotional hangover. because I'm going to feel bad about that. And I'm going to have to go and talk to that person. I'm going to have to apologize.
The worst.
Right? And so for me, it's always like, well, how do I, between the moment of feeling an emotion, a strong emotion, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm feeling it. How do I bridge that gap between reaction and emotion?
Well, it's better to respond than react.
Right. And sometimes, like, my sponsor will be like, shut up. Like, don't say anything. He's like, literally, if you can't say anything but venomous, anger, he's like, don't say anything. And if they're like, you're not going to talk, just be like, I can't talk, right? Just, like,
Right?
just stop.
Yeah.
And then respond when you can.
Yeah.
But that's like, for me, like, the biggest problem is like, I get so reactive. And so I'm like, just stop. And then,
But you're not alone. It's everybody.
No, totally.
We all have this.
Totally.
And, we're talking about a situation where, do I want to bite this guy's head off or not? Then there's those little subtleties throughout the day that might not be as a heightened of a situation, more of a, you might have just said something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You might have just at the top of your email, remember to say, hey, how are you? And then start your email versus just blast someone with it. I mean, it's just the little things.
Totally.
And I think collectively they all add up to make you a better person, more purposeful, and also really enjoy your life more. That whole in the moment thing. I'd rather be in the moment.
Well, right. Just I mean, it's insane to think that we never want now. We want, tomorrow, or we want to think about yesterday, but you don't want what you have and you want what you don't have.
Right.
It's insanity.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. All right. Well, I want to do another segment, but before we do that, just to tie in, I want to hear from you about, considering, vulnerability, authenticity, content, business, what the landscape looks like in 20 years. Like, what's this going to look like? What's real estate, the user journey? I mean, things like that. Do you see social media like just getting bigger and bigger and bigger is it going to implode on itself and everybody's going to go back to old schools? Like, where do you think we're headed here?
Oof.
It's a big question, I know.
I've had such long answers today. Can I just say I don't know?
You can't say I don't know.
Right? Look, here's what I genuinely believe. It's not slowing down.
Okay.
Right? It's going to go faster. We talked earlier about virtual reality, artificial intelligence. Look, we're at the first inning as far as I'm concerned. There's only going to be bigger and better changes. We were talking about a video game.
Yep.
All right. Well, this year we figured out Zoom. You don't think
everybody figured out Zoom? My grandmother figured out Zoom.
You don't think in the next year that there's not going to be, let's say, Oculus, which is the head virtual reality thing, meets Zoom, and you don't have to go fly somewhere, but you could have a business meeting and you're sitting in a room.
We could be doing this, and you look like that, and then high five each other because we got sensors.
And some of that stuff
like
could be cool. You mentioned real estate. If I'm in San Diego, and I want to buy a house in Denver, and I can actually look around the house in Denver, and I don't just mean Matterport and some of these things, but
like really plug in.
Really plug in and really see the area and the nightlife. There's a lot of that stuff that's really cool, and I'd rather err on the side of cool stuff's going to come and adapt to the change. So I think the world's going to move fast, and more importantly than what I think, what can you do about it? What can you do as a professional, as a business person? Disruption creates opportunity. Like, you can't ever sit still. The earth doesn't. That sun goes up, it goes down, that tide goes in, that tide goes out. Yep. It is going to keep changing. And complacency, especially at a time like this, is your worst enemy.
Totally.
You've got to move forward. Yep. Change should say, sometimes people don't like change. It's like, oh man, now I got to go learn this thing, learn the thing.
It's hard. It's painful.
Make change your normal.
Yep.
You got to be quick to pivot and not have to have catastrophic situations like COVID force it.
Yeah, or be able to change your mind. Like, that's like the biggest thing now is every time I hear people like, you always flip flop or you change your mind. It's like, yeah, I can do that though. Like, that's important to be able to do that. Isn't it funny how politicians, that's like used against them? Well, you said this and now you say this. Like, you never hear a politician be like, I changed my mind. No. I got older. They're like, I didn't say that. Yeah, that's out of context. Yeah, it's
right.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
I got older and different things happened. I thought through it more. And now I think a little bit differently. That was the old me. But what I think is going to happen, I think the world's just going to keep moving fast. Whether it's social media, whether it's a new app, new something, it's all coming. And it's coming in like a tidal wave. and you can surf it or drown in it. You choose.
All right. Well, you heard it from Craig Sewing, and what we're going to do here is we're going to close it out with a little segment I like to call Finish the Sentence. Are you ready for this?
All right.
All right, we're going to have a good time. Here we go. All right, if I wasn't a CEO/TV host, I would be...
Oh. I don't even like saying this TV host. I just host from time to time. See, wow. Man, the reason I'm stalling a little bit is because I want to give you an authentic answer, and this sounds like it's a lightning round kind of thing.
Hey, you know what? However you want to do it, you do. I'd rather get the real deal from you than have you worry about the time.
Let me give you the real thing. I am stumped. I really can't give you an answer because I could not imagine not being a leader of an organization. I can't. Now, here's a real answer. I want that to lead to something bigger.
Okay.
So charity, for example, I do things for charity here and there. I have an entrepreneurial spirit about me. I'm able to build things, create things, market things. My hope over time is as different things change in the career, mergers and acquisitions and exit strategy, all that, I look forward to being able to apply what my skill set that's developed over the years and whatever my DNA or what God gave me into a significantly bigger purpose.
Yeah. Yep.
That's not exactly if you weren't this and that, but that's what I think will be my passion as we get into the second half of life.
Love that. All right. Well, hopefully this one may be long-winded too. I don't know. My mom thinks I'm the best at
everything. That's what moms do, man.
That's what moms do. Absolutely. My go-to vacation.
She's wrong, but that's what she thinks.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, if your mom thinks it, then, she's right.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Let's go with that. I love it. My go-to vacation spot is?
Oh, love Cabo. Okay. Cabo's just fun. I like Mexican food. I like escaping to Cabo. Love Thailand.
Oh, Thailand.
Thailand's amazing.
Tony and I talk about vacationing a lot. Tony's running the video and audio over here, but he wants to go to Japan a lot. We talk about wanting to go to Japan.
That doesn't jump out at me,
really?
But I want to go anywhere. It's funny. My wife asked me last night, we were talking about vacations. I'm like, I really want to go to India and do a meditation retreat. Yeah. And I want to go to Africa and do a safari thing. But my go-to, the quick hitter, is Cabo. Would love to go on a vacation to Thailand again. Yep. It's just an amazing place. I actually went out there, kind of a funny story, and I'll be quick. I went out there, call it a decade ago, with a couple friends, and I was really into training in Muay Thai then.
Really?
So I went and I spent a week in a Muay Thai, Tiger Muay Thai. It's where all the UFC fighters go. It's like,
wow.
Muay Thai. Thai stands for Thailand. It was created in Thailand.
Okay.
And so
how long ago was this?
This is probably a decade ago.
Okay.
You can look on social media. So we went out there and we go and we're having drinks, having a good time. And we end up going to this bar and it's got a Thai ring in the middle of it, a Muay Thai boxing ring in the middle. Gosh. And it's this bar. And
so people can get drunk and fight.
Yeah. And there's Thai music playing everywhere. And keep in mind, I've been training in it, not competitively, but kind of, I trained with Brandon Vera down in downtown City Boxing. He's a UFC fighter. This is, again, 10 years ago. And there's this little Thai guy walking around with a sign that says, get in ring, get bucket of beer for free. So there's this guy who's in this ring, and he's not a big guy, and he's taunting the audience to come fight him. I have several drinks in me at this point.
I'll do it.
And so I raised my hand. Within 60 seconds, they had pulled my pants down, put on my Thai shorts, thrown me in this ring, and there's Thai music playing, and I'm about to fight this dude. Well, guess what? The dude is gone. Like, nowhere to be found. I'm like, where'd the guy? Where'd the little shit talker go? And I look across, and they found some other guy, this monster British dude that was like 250 pounds. And
a British guy, huh?
Yeah, who's there with his buddies. So they're getting a bucket of beer. And I fight this dude for 3 rounds. I hit this guy.
Like bare not like we
had gloves. We had gloves.
Okay.
But I mean, we beat the crap out of each other. Actually, not really true. I didn't get hit very much. I kicked his ass, but I could not.
How
this
big
guy
of
out.
when you say monster? Like you're a tall guy. How tall are you? 6'4"?
I'm 6'4", but I'm like a $180 to 200, but $180 to $190, we'll say. He was probably 6'2", 6'3", but 250.
Okay, so he's a big boy.
Brick shithouse.
Okay.
Like, this guy was big. And I mean, I laid it into him. Keep in mind, I was training. I was in great shape.
Yep.
and this guy had a cinder block for a head, so I couldn't knock him out. But I ended up winning the fight.
Okay.
My friends had already drank the bucket of beer by the time I got out of the ring. I went and puked in the bathroom. We ended up hanging out with the guys. I ended up tearing my pec. My whole arm looked like your sleeve.
Oh, yeah.
Like you got a cool sleeve there.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
That was mine, except a bruise down my arm. I got back to San Diego. I was like, man, my arm is jacked. What did I do to my arm? It turns out I had torn my pec and it bled all down my arm.
Oh, man.
But hey, man, 1-0 in Thai fights, and I retired.
Yeah, well, plus that's a great story.
Yeah,
Man,
right?
that was awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
So anyway, maybe I shouldn't go back to Thailand.
Yeah, maybe not, but you could replay that. It was like you do like a 10th anniversary. Like
I don't want to mess up my 1-0 record.
I guess.
Hang up the cleats. It's over.
Yeah, especially story about fighting a really big guy and winning. I mean, that once you win,
I probably embellish it. I don't
Yeah.
know, something like that. He might have been 200.
Love it. Well, can't fault you for that. How about this one? The best drink in the world is Bush beer. No, just kidding.
That's a great answer. Let's go with Bush beer.
All right, Bush beer. Okay, on the weekends.
I actually like Budweiser over Bush, and I like IPAs better than that. And I like Johnny Blue, single cube. That's my drink.
Johnny Blue. Okay, so I've been out of the drinking game for so long now. School me. What is that?
Whiskey. There's different colors of Johnny. Johnny Black, Johnny Red, Johnny Blue.
Okay, gotcha.
Johnny Blue's the good stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Favorite hangout spot is
Hangout spot is, so we're talking like San Diego?
wherever. Could be your couch. Wherever. Where you like to hang out?
My backyard, man. I got, so before COVID, we just bought a house. I got like an outdoor man cave.
Oh,
So
sweet.
it doesn't make sense to say outdoor man cave, but it's like a little island.
It's a COVID-friendly man cave.
Yeah, and it's outdoor. It's open. We got a flat screen. My grill is there. Have you ever heard of a big green egg?
No.
Okay.
What's that?
Do you cook?
No.
Well, me either.
I mean, I do for my daughter, but when it's for myself,
I
it's
don't.
like peanut
I don't
butter
really
toast.
either. But this island's got the grill, so it's grilling.
Yep.
This big green egg. It's a smoker. It's the greatest thing ever. That's my answer. Is
Okay.
sitting out and cooking on the big green egg. It's a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm old, man. Like sitting at the house doing some landscaping. That's fun for me. You throw on like some ribs,
Yeah.
tri-tip, whatever,
See
and
a
you let it
reason to
sit
go
for
anywhere else.
a
Absolutely.
few hours, and
Yeah.
that's
I want Guy
my
Fieri's setup.
happy
Have you
place.
seen his backyard?
Uh-uh.
How he's got like a guy's big. I'm a big Food Network guy.
Okay.
So like he's got like a brick oven, pizza thing in his backyard, and like all these cool like long.
That's
counter-
fun.
Oh yeah, I mean,
the
great
thing-
to entertain and.
It's fun. I haven't ever been big into cooking either. I figured it out during COVID because we couldn't go anywhere, so I kind of learned how to cook.
Sure.
And it's actually therapeutic. It's meditative to be able to throw this. First of all,
Creative. I
it
mean,
takes me back to
absolutely.
childhood, just starting a fire. I'm like, fire. So start a fire, get the smoker going, you got all the smoke, and then you'll get it to a temperature of like 250, 300, very low temp. You put your meat on. It'll sit for hours, but then when it comes out, it's just like melt off the bone. It's the best. That's my happy
Awesome.
place.
All right. Well, I'll have to maybe someday come check that out.
For sure, man.
Sweet. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get a little bit deeper. So I've never told anyone that I.
Never told anyone. Well, I admitted the college dropout thing here to your audience, so that's out the bag.
You can blame me for that. I'm the jerk that brought it up.
Man, the problem with me is I'm honest to a fault. So I want to give you a real answer. I've never told anyone I've. All right. When I was younger, I told you the Thai story fight.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in a lot of fights.
Okay.
I don't share that because I don't feel good about it.
Sure.
I've won a lot of fights.
Yeah.
Never tried to hurt anybody, but I've been in a lot of fights. So that's not something I've ever shared. It's not something I'm proud of. So
Got it.
you put me on the spot.
Love it. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, I'm a big.
By the way, we're talking 20 years ago. No judgment.
Yeah. No. I mean, hey, look, I'm a transparent person myself, and I think that's important. You know what I mean?
Here's the truth. We talked earlier about meditation and the monkey brain. Well, what are we really talking about? We're talking about ego. And sometimes people think ego is like conceited ego. I don't mean that big head. Ego is that voice.
Totally.
Right? And when you're younger, and where I was from, ego was kind of the enemy. Like, think you're tougher than you really are, have to show off about this, all things that aren't important as you get older and you learn to outgrow.
Totally.
And so, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, you get some drinks in a young guy in a bar setting in a college town. There's ego.
It's going to pop off.
Something happens.
Totally.
Yeah, not proud of that.
Totally. All right. Well, again, appreciate the transparency. And then lastly here, I want people to remember me as someone who
the knee-jerk reaction is make an impact, but that's kind of what the question is. So what is the impact around? Say it again.
I want people to remember me as someone who...
Yeah, I want to be remembered genuinely as somebody who really did influence others to be better. It's funny that piggybacking on the last story and ego and things like that, those things served me in some ways. I was a hard worker. I worked 16-hour days. I was super competitive. Mm-hmm. All those things had a place for me. Mm-hmm. They don't now.
Yeah.
I'm still competitive, right, with myself, but it's not to beat someone else or anything like that. I ultimately want my life to be a legacy of, I call it being powerfully content. Right, powerful, I think of it like a lion in a safari, like sitting there with his tail whipping around. That lion could maul something if it wanted to.
Right.
But it's content just sitting in the shade somewhere.
Like calm,
it could,
cool.
But it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
So I personally want to be powerfully content. I don't need the things. I just want to be happy. I want to be chill. Yes, my happy place, I told you, sitting in my backyard doing landscaping. I want that life for me. I want that life for my family. And I want other people to have that life for them. And I hope that I can bring that into other people's worlds in some way, shape, or form.
Awesome. That's an excellent answer, man. Well, Craig, listen, thanks so much for coming on the show. Real quick, Ignite Now Media, the video production studio, multi-camera setup, green screens. I know we didn't get too far into that, but where can people learn more about that? How can people connect with you? Where can we get your book? Let us know.
Yeah, find me online. Let's be like the cool kids. Go to Instagram. Okay. At Craig Sewing Media. Sewing spelled like a sewing machine. That's how you follow me. Our story at Craig Sewing Media. Follow. See what we do. I hope it has a good impact on you.
Yeah, and then the TV show.
Yeah, well, at The American Dream TV. Right? So if you follow me, you'll find your way to that pretty quickly.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's all we got. Thanks for tuning into the What's Next podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to follow our or subscribe to our YouTube channel at the What's Next Pod. YouTube.com/the What's Next Pod. And then you can get the What's Next podcast on pretty much any platform that you want to get your podcasts on. So Apple, Stitcher, all that fun stuff. And Craig, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing your story as well. Today was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Tony, take us out. We'll see you guys next time.